Hello, YouTube and Wooper Club fans. It's me, Fruit Taco, coach of the Route 1 Burbs, here to welcome you to the 13th season of the WCL, the Wooper Club League. I'm here bringing you the feature matches this season, and I'm here to start you off with a match between the Waterdeep Wobbuffets and the Wooper Troopers. This season is going to be a bit of a chaotic one, so I hope that we're going to have some really interesting matches for you throughout the season. We're going to start you off with this one, so let's just dive into it. Because this is the auction season, you're going to notice that the coaches here don't actually have the same number of Mons. That's right, week to week there are going to be auctions for new Pokemon that coaches can add to their teams, so depending on how the coaches do in those auctions, they may not all have the same amount of Pokemon at the same time. Here in this matchup, the Waterdeep Wobbuffets failed to pick up anything besides their starting 6 Pokemon, while their opponents, the Wooper Troopers, did pick up a couple of additions. So with that out of the way, the Wobbuffets are Inteleon, Zoroark, Lycanroc Midnight, Weirdeer, Enamorous Therian who cannot Terra, and Slowking Galar who cannot Terra. They're going up against the Wooper Troopers with Noivern who cannot Terra, Delphox, Tauros Aqua Breed, Braviary, Phalanx, Magneton, Corviknight who cannot Terra, and Ampharos. So, looking at these Pokemon, the Troopers definitely have the advantage in number of Mons, and I think they've got the advantage in speed too. They have the fastest Mon in the matchup with Noivern, and I think the advantage in the mid to lower speed tiers, rocking those kinds of 70s and 60s to go ahead of the Enamorous and Slowking and Weirdeer on the Wobbuffets side. I do think the Wobbuffets have some good Mons here, though. Slowking Galar is always a pain to actually deal with, and Enamorous Therian could be a huge threat. I think everyone's eyes are on it this season. With great stats and Stab Fairy plus Earth Power and Mystical Fire, it can go off at a moment's notice if it just starts getting a couple Calm Minds or a Weakness Policy boost off. I do think Zoroark also looks good, with the only Dark Resists on the Trooper side being hit by Extrasensory super effectively, and I think Inteleon also looks pretty good, with Ice and Flying coverage covering the Water Resists on the Trooper side. I definitely think the game plan will hinge more on that Enamorous getting set up than the others, but I do think that they could put in a lot of work and perhaps clean in the end. Looking at the Troopers side, they also actually have a lot of good setup Mons. Braviary, Corviknight, Phalanx, Tauros. A lot of good options there with things like Bulk Up, things like No Retreat on the Phalanx. I do think Noivern will also be good for scouting and pivoting, as well as dropping Draco Meteors and Boom Bursts. I also think, though, that with those kind of setup Mons in that kind of middle speed tier, some nice speed control from the electric types spamming Thunder Wave and unresisted stab electric attacks will also do them good. I think I'd give the advantage slightly to the Troopers just because they have more options to go with here, and I think they've got several good ones, but the Waterdeep Wobbuffets, I think they've got great pieces and can certainly pull one out here if the Troopers aren't prepared. So let's get into what each coach is bringing and then the battle. Well, we knew what 6 Pokemon the Wobbuffets were bringing. Let's look at the actual sets that are coming to the match. Starting off with Galarian Slowking, running max HP and a healthy amount of special attack and special defense investment alongside an Assault Vest, making a very specially bulky Mon with some decent offensive potential. Psychic, Ice Beam, Surf, and Fire Blast give it offensive coverage for basically everything except the Ampharos, I think. So I really think that this is a nice, well-rounded set that will put in some reliable work and offer good pivoting opportunities. Next, we have that Enamorous Therian. Little bit of HP, but mostly max special attack modest with almost max speed and a weakness policy. You'll see agility on this set actually, with that hefty speed investment, lets it outspeed max speed Noivern after an agility. So it's outspeeding everything except something that has a Choice Scarf. Moonblast, Earth Power, and Mystical Fire then give it the coverage to hit basically whatever it needs to, and you've got something that's going to be absolutely deadly here if it gets the agility off and it gets that weakness policy boost. Moving on to the Inteleon. We have a very fun crit build. Sniper plus Razor Claw and Snipe Shot gives that move about a 50% chance to crit and do huge damage. We see near max speed, but max special attack and modest nature lets it outspeed max speed Delphox. Then you've got U-turn for pivoting, and Ice Beam and Air Slash for nice coverage. It does have Terra Ground, which lets it beat the Electrics if they have no coverage. I think Terra Blast would have been nice to see to help it beat those Electrics a little more thoroughly, but, you know, he's doing the funny crit build, Snipe Shot, very good. Ice Beam and Air Slash are great coverage, so I can't really fault him on the moveset, just an interesting other option he could have gone with. Next, we've got Zoroark. We've got near max speed timid, max special attack with a life orb and Terra Steel to resist the fairy type attacks. We've got Nasty Plot to set up with Night Daze, Flamethrower, and Grass Knot. Grass Knot over extra sensory here doesn't hit the Phalanx super effectively, but still hits the Tauros super effectively and covers defensive Terras like Water or Ground. Now we have Weirdeer, physically defensive to complement the specially defensive Slowking, Leftovers, and Frisk over Intimidate because of Defiant and Mirror Armor as ability options on the Trooper's side. We see max HP and near max defense with just a little bit of speed investment to outspeed an uninvested Corviknight. Psyshield Bash lets it raise its defense even further, with special coverage in Thunderbolt and Psychic to hit Pokemon trying to set up bulk ups, and Thunder Wave for some nice speed control. Terra Psychic, I don't think it'll see a whole lot of use out of, but nice, just general, well-purposed defensive supportive set here. Really like it. And last, we have Lycanroc Midnight. No guard ability to let it hit those stone edges, and a focus sash to give it chances to set up. Max attack adamant with a lot of speed so that after a Trailblaze it outspeeds the Trooper's entire team. We see Trailblaze, Swords Dance, Stone Edge, and Close Combat, letting it absolutely go to town if it can get those opportunities to set up. Terra Fairy is interesting on it. I guess it's to resist fighting. I guess it also lets it be immune to Dragon then? I don't know. Ghost or a Water Resist probably would have made more sense to me. I don't know, maybe he's counting on the Terra Fairy immunity to something like Draco Meteor being there to give him the extra turn of setup to get both the Swords Dance and Trailblaze going there. I think all in all, this is a really good team here from the Wobbuffets. I'm excited to see how it looks, and they've just got a lot of things. It's just a question of positioning them for things like that Zoroark and that Enamorus to get set up and truly do a bunch of damage. Moving on to the Wooper Troopers, we see the 6 Pokemon that they chose to bring here, starting off with that Corviknight. I actually really like this Corviknight set. Got Leftovers on a max specially defensive set with that Mirror Armor allowing it to beat Enamorus some of the time, as long as it's not trying to set up, because Mirror Armor is going to reflect the special attack drops from the super effective Mystical Fire. Iron Head is good stab, especially for that Enamorus. U-turn it for pivoting, Defog for hazard removal, and Roost for longevity. I really like this set, except for Defog. You'll see that we actually have Defog on Noivern later on in the team, so I really think Bulk Up would have been great in that spot instead to boost that physical defense to go with the specially defensive set you already have, boost those Iron Heads so you avoid something like a weakness policy on the Enamorus, and you can just kind of stay in and go to town, especially because you have screen support later on in the team. Roosting up, bulking up, and getting off huge Iron Heads I think would have been super, super good. Moving on to Tauros, it has a Citrus Berry with that Cudchew ability over Intimidate, letting it eat that Citrus Berry twice. Terra Ground is there to boost Earthquakes, with max attack Adamant and a lot of speed to let it outspeed max speed Lycanroc. The rest of that, those EVs are going to be thrown into the special defense for a little extra bulk. And then we have Raging Bull, Wild Charge, that boosted Earthquake, and Bulk Up. Wild Charge hits Inteleon and Enamorus, which is nice, and the Terra Ground boosted Earthquake actually has a chance to one-shot a specially defensive Slowking. So this thing's got plenty of power. Only questions I have is that Bulk Up there, no Aqua Jet. Aqua Jet would be nice to hit Inteleon or Zoroark if they're low, as well as a Lycanroc that has something like a Choice Scarf. I understand wanting to go for Bulk Up, though, and kind of just clean things out late in the game. I also really like the Citrus Berry and Kudzu pairing with Wild Charge, so if you have a bulk up and you do huge amounts to something like Enamorous with it, you could potentially actually get a lot of that HP back. Moving on to Delphox, though, it's got heavy-duty boots to protect it from the rocks, Terra Water to resist water-type attacks, as well as just defensive all around. Then we've got Max Attack Modest with a lot of speed again, so it outspeeds Max Speed Lycanroc, and the rest of the EVs are just thrown into HP. Dazzling Gleam Flamethrower at Will-O-Wisp and Nasty Plot is a pretty solid set. The only thing I have a question about there is Will-O-Wisp. You're really probably only trying to Will-O-Wisp the Lycanroc and the Zoroark, who you have a bad matchup into, so maybe something like Flame Charge to outspeed those threats, or Shadow Ball to hit the Galarian Slowking a bit harder would have been probably better options in my eye, but the passive damage of Will-O-Wisp is never a bad thing. Then is Noivern with its own heavy-duty boots. You can see near max speed Timid lets it be the fastest thing in the match, with max special attack and a little bit of HP investment to finish it up. Boom Burst is going to hit everything except the Lycanroc pretty dang hard, with U-Turn for pivoting, Defog for hazard removal, and Whirlwind to be able to phase out any setup sweepers. I think that's an interesting choice here. The Wobbuffets certainly have a lot of scary setup sweepers, but the negative priority on Whirlwind and the fact that you're, just a Noivern with very little bulk, there's a good chance that any setup sweepers are just going to KO you when you try to phase them out. Something like Hurricane or Draco Meteor there for a little bit more offensive coverage and pressure, I think would have been nice. I see where they're going with the Whirlwind. We'll just have to see if it actually pays out for them. Then we have Braviary. Life Orb Sheer Force is going to be doing a bunch of damage with Terra Steel to boost Iron Head damage. You can see Max Attack Adamant with a lot of speed to outspeed Max Speed Weirdier. Body Slam and Iron Head are getting boosted by Sheer Force and that Life Orb, with U-Turn for pivoting and Bulk Up to do absolutely crazy amounts of damage. I think this is by far the scariest Pokemon that the Troopers are bringing. Sheer Force, Life Orb, Stab, Body Slam, and Terra Stab Iron Head is going to just absolutely eat the entire team of the Wobbuffets if it gets a chance to get a bulk up or two off, and if it doesn't take too much damage from things that outspeed it. Speaking of things taking damage, let's move on to the last Pokemon, Ampharos. You can see it's holding a Light Clay there with max HP, near max special defense, with just a little bit of speed in case something like the Enamorous is trying to speed creep it. We've then got Volt Switch and Thunderbolt for pivot and stab, and then Reflect and Light Screen to protect the entire team. I think this is a great set. These screens are going to go a long way as far as helping some of those slower Pokemon survive while they set up and then hit back. Volt Switch and Thunderbolt are unresisted and pretty fine choices there. Only thing is that, maybe T-Wave for some speed control or coverage move just in case something Terra Grounds would have been nice, but I can't really fault them on the set here. I think it's pretty dang great. While overall, I think the Troopers made a couple suboptimal move choices on a lot of their sets, I don't really think they ended up with any bad sets. It's just going to be a question of making sure that they get the right things in to deal with the right threats and don't get caught by surprise by too many of the Wobbuffets' tricks while they're trying to set up themselves. So, with those two teams out of the way, let's jump into the match and see how it all went down. And, well, here we are, both teams seeing what the other brought. For the Wobbuffets, I think Enamorous has a great chance to go off. Volt Switch from Ampharos or Iron Head from Braviary or Corviknight could proc that weakness policy and give it a huge chance to do big damage. Slowking, Zoroark, and Inteleon also look pretty good with the sets they brought. That Slowking probably being a nice safe lead here to get some chip on anything, scout a little bit, and then recover your HP with Regenerator. The Troopers, screens are going to go a long way here, especially Light Screen. Braviary, I think, will do a lot of good here, but it needs to find the time to set up and make sure it doesn't take too much damage before it gets that bulk up and can start throwing off huge body slams and Iron Heads. Troopers, I would assume, are leading with Ampharos just to get those screens up nice and early, and then probably pivot on out of there into something better. Turn 1, you'll see I was right on both counts. Light screen goes up, and the Slowking is going to throw off a Psychic here. Get a nice special defense drop, actually. That means that while it wasn't doing a whole lot of damage, it's going to be doing a little bit more, and can really just afford to stay in here, keep firing off damage, stalling out light screen turns, and kind of seeing what the troopers want to do. Volt Switch here out into the Braviary to set up. Fire Blast comes out, probably expecting a Corviknight. Physically Defensive Weirdeer comes out, frisks the Life Orb, then Bulk Up comes out. Low roll on the Body Slam, but Max couldn't KO, and a T-Wave is really going to neutralize the Braviary here. T-Bolt lets it eat some damage behind that screen, and we're going to finish it off with the Iron Head. Terra Steel will let it take a Stone Edge here before bringing down the Lycanroc to its own sash. Switch out into Tauros here. Eat the Close Combat. Real nice roll to just proc that Citrus Berry. Raging Bull will finish off the Lycanroc, and Cudchew will bring that Tauros back to full. Enamorus now out with that screen gone. Nice switch here to Ampharos to scout what it is. And Grass Knot, that's no Enamorus. That's the Zoroark going for a nasty plot here, which will be negated by Light Screen. Night Daze does good damage, but T-Bolt is going to get a near max roll here and put it in Life Orb recoil range. Switching out here into Tauros, I think this was an interesting pair of moves here from the Wobbuffets. T-Bolt over Volt Switch. I think Volt Switch probably would have been nicer, get you in something like Noivern, who would be able to just follow up with a nice free Boom Burst, unresisted, easily take out the Zoroark or hit something trying to switch in. Also could have gone for something like a U-turn. Going for that T-Bolt, and now, you know, having the, looking at this Zoroark here, I'm not sure about switching into the Tauros. It's going to, you'll see, it's going to take pretty big damage here from the Night Daze, even though it resists it. And though Zoroark goes down to Life Orb recoil, it brings in the Inteleon here. I'm not sure about letting Tauros take all of that damage. It's really your best bet against the Slowking here, as well as just having good threatening wild charges for the Inteleon and the Enamorus. I probably would have instead gone and just sacked Delphox. It's really not doing much in this match. Needs to set up a lot to be able to break through that Slowking. Weak to the Inteleon. Not particularly great against the Enamorus. I probably would have saved the HP on that Tauros and let it come in at a different point in time. But now we have Inteleon here going up against Tauros behind the screen. It's interesting that that screen has been doing a lot of work because Air Slash actually doesn't KO, but we know the Razor Claw means there's a chance for a crit here. Let's see what happens. No crit, no flinch means Wild Charge will come out. Low roll misses the 75% chance to OHKO and goes down to recoil. Item revealed on Inteleon, and Slowking is going to come in to eat a U-turn, letting the Braviary, who still outspeeds, come out. Para, but Fire Blast misses. We'll try that again, folks. Another Para, and this time Fire Blast hits. That's rough. A Body Slam actually had a small chance to KO Slowking there. Delphox is going to need to seriously set up, but that Light Screen is going to let it take some Surfs. Flamethrower does just under half of what was remaining, as Surf does huge damage. Do Flamethrowers with the boost. We're always going to need a Burn to KO there. Didn't get it, so Delphox goes down. Ampharos comes out to set up another screen, and Corviknight is going to come out to take a weak U-turn. Slowking getting that Regenerator HP comes out. Iron Head from the Corviknight, no flinch, but again, that Light Screen doing so much work keeping it healthy. U-turn here is going to go out into the Ampharos, while Inteleon comes out. Terra Ground, Ice Beam doesn't pick up the KO, maybe expecting Noivern, but the Terra Ground will save it from that Volt Switch. Corviknight comes out, still no crits here from that Snipe Shot. Another Snipe Shot, 50% chance, still no crits. Iron Head lets it take out the Inteleon. But now Enamorus is out. Agility, here we go, it's setting up. Roost, it's going to need to be able to put the Corviknight in range of Mystical Fire without lowering its special attack with some Moonblasts. It's actually going to come down to a couple rolls here, so let's see how they do. 1 Mon to 3 here. Moonblast does good chip, gets a near max roll, which will be great. But the Ironhead does proc that weakness policy, Mystical Fire, and the critical hit. Oh my gosh. That's actually potentially pretty huge there. The calc says that Mystical Fire, even with that boost, only had a 12.5% chance to KO, but that crit guaranteeing the KO there, and now, well, folks, that's pretty much it. Noivern and Ampharos are going to get outsped and taken out, so it's a little bit of unfortunate for the Troopers there. Of course, there was the roll to KO with that Mystical Fire anyways, but crit certainly didn't help. I think really well played by both coaches here. The Wobbuffets did a great job of just knowing what their win conditions were and making sure to keep that in mind and make sure they had everything they needed at the end. For the Troopers, unfortunate that they couldn't pull out the win here. Little unlucky, but they did pretty good with what they have. Maybe a little bit questionable some of the switches as far as what was taking damage, but I think they played a great game and were really close to a win here. So that'll be it from me. Thank you for joining me for this Week 1 feature match from our 13th season. We're going to have plenty more feature matches coming your way, so make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff if you want to stay up to date with what's going on this channel here. And, well, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for another feature match.